It starts quietly. Nobody even notices it's happening at first. One day, you're just 7 years old, looking into the eyes of a parent who is completely falling apart. Maybe they're struggling with an addiction, or they're always angry, or maybe they're just so broken inside that they've stopped being there for you. Right then, without anyone saying a word, something clicks inside your small mind. If I don't hold everything together, nobody will. This is how a child disappears. They don't actually go anywhere, but the kid inside them vanishes. They start smiling more to keep the peace, and they stop crying because they don't want to be a burden. They learn to read the room before they even open their mouths. It's like they become the house thermostat, constantly checking the temperature of everyone's mood to make sure things stay calm. They turn into tiny adults long before their brains are actually ready for it. And the worst part? The world cheers them on. Everyone says, "Wow, you're so mature," or "You're such a responsible kid." But what looks like a superpower is actually a silent cry for help, and no one ever stops to ask, at what cost? This is the hidden sadness of kids who had to grow up in a heartbeat. Today, we're going deep inside the mind of that child to see what's really going on. Because those feelings don't just go away when you get older. They shape who you become. They follow you into your friendships, your jobs, and even how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. If you don't understand what really happened back then, you'll spend your whole adult life stuck in survival mode. You'll keep using the same habits that saved you as a kid, but those same habits are now the very things holding you back and hurting you today. Before we get deep into this, I need you to understand something vital. This isn't about your inner child who likes to play and laugh. This is about the child who was physically and emotionally abandoned, the one who never had anyone to show them the way or believe in them. It's about the child who learned way too early that they were all alone in the world, even when their parents were standing right there. For decades, I hated that child inside me. I thought I had buried him deep underground, but he was always there, just waiting. I'm sharing this because I know so many people try to kill their inner child. You might even be doing it right now without realizing it. Maybe you're ashamed of the kid you used to be, or you despise that version of yourself for being pathetic, so you pretend they don't exist. But here is the hard truth. When you hate your inner child, you are hating a part of yourself. Think about it. Have you been trying to bury that child? That child isn't your enemy. They are the part of you that survived. Every time you felt abandoned, scared, or lost, they were the ones who took the hits and kept the scars. Instead of trying to hide them, maybe it's time to finally meet them. Stop running. Look that child in the eye and say, "I'm here now. You're not alone anymore. I've got you." Until you heal that child, you'll never feel whole. And until you are whole, you can't be the parent your own children truly deserve. If you want to see a specific video on how to heal the inner child, let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Now, the psychology of a child who grew up too fast. Let's look at what's actually happening inside the brain as this child grows up. When a child is forced to take care of an adult's feelings instead of the adult taking care of theirs, psychologists call this parentification. Basically, the roles get flipped. The child becomes the caregiver, the therapist, the bodyguard, or the one who has to keep everyone calm. This doesn't just feel heavy, it actually rewires the brain. When a kid is constantly forced to manage everyone's emotions, they develop something called hypervigilance. Think of it like a biological alarm system that is stuck on high alert, 24/7. You're constantly scanning for danger, always walking on eggshells. You start to believe that love is just a deal. If I keep things peaceful, maybe I'll stay safe. You learn that your own needs are dangerous or annoying, while everyone else's needs are urgent. So you start to disappear, not on the outside, but on the inside. In your place, a performer version of you takes over. You become the perfect kid, the quiet overachiever, the friend who fixes everyone's problems, and the one who never asks for anything. You wear this mask so well that you eventually forget it's even there. But deep down, there is a sharp, heavy ache. That's because the child you tried to bury didn't actually die. They are still in there, screaming silently. Why didn't anyone protect me? And as you get older, those hidden feelings start to turn into much bigger, more complicated problems. You might become hyper-independent, the kind of person who refuses help from anyone, pushes people away, or never feels truly safe when someone loves you. You might even feel numb during happy moments because, to you, joy feels weird, unearned, or even dangerous. Rest becomes a struggle because you feel like doing things is the only way to be worthy of existing. And the worst part? You might not even realize you're still stuck in survival mode. When your home was messy or stressful growing up, your body learned to accept chaos as normal. Now, whenever things are quiet and still, it actually feels wrong. Peace feels suspicious to you. Love doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a debt you'll eventually have to pay back. This is what happens to the mind of a child who was forced to grow up way too fast. It's more than just being sad. It's a deep, complex kind of hurt that changes how you see the entire world and, most importantly, how you see yourself. Now, you might wonder, why would any kid choose to take on all that adult stress? The truth is, it wasn't a choice. Children need to feel connected to their parents to survive. A child will do anything to stay close to their caregiver, even if it means abandoning their own needs. It isn't something they think through. It's a biological survival instinct. When safety disappears, a child trades being their real self just to belong. That isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually intelligence. It's pure survival instinct. But here is the tragedy. The very thing that saved you back then is what's keeping you trapped now. So many of us walk around acting like successful adults, but deep down, a neglected child is the one pulling the strings. We work ourselves to the bone and try to be the best at everything, just to feel like we deserve to be loved. We stay silent because we're terrified that if we speak up, people will leave. We spend our lives taking care of everyone else, while secretly wishing, just once, someone would look at us and ask, "Are you okay?" You might have this secret fantasy that someone will finally notice you aren't as strong as you pretend to be. You hope that, maybe, you'll finally get to fall apart and let someone else hold you for a change. That deep longing isn't coming from your adult self. It's coming from the child who never actually got to be a child. The first step to healing isn't fixing yourself. It's simply being a witness to your own story. Until you admit what really happened, you'll keep tricking yourself or gaslighting yourself by saying things like, "It wasn't that bad," or "Others had it worse," or "I turned out fine." But fine is just another mask, and deep down, you know it. So, what happens to that child when they grow up? They become adults who never feel safe, even in a room full of peace. They become partners who can't trust kindness because it feels too good to be true. They become givers who have no idea how to receive. They're the kind of people who apologize for crying, flinch when someone gives them a compliment, and think that being exhausted is the same thing as being successful. That is the price you pay for growing up too fast. If your childhood trained you to be strong instead of soft, to stay quiet instead of being honest, and to fix everyone else while ignoring your own broken pieces, what kind of life do you end up with? You end up always holding your breath, just waiting for someone to give you permission to finally let go. But here is the hard truth. No one is coming to rescue the child you buried. You are the only one who can go back and hold their hand. You are the one who has to say the words no one else ever did. You didn't deserve that. You were just a child. You're allowed to rest now. It's not about fixing yourself, performing for others, or pretending to be happy when you're not. It's about turning toward the abandoned parts of yourself and saying, "I see you, I hear you, and I'm not leaving you behind anymore." This is called reparenting, and it's tough. It's brutal because it asks you to finally feel all the sadness and grief that you never had the time or space to feel when you were little. It asks you to sit with all the rage, the sorrow, and the needs that were never met. It means crying for the birthdays where you felt forgotten, and mourning the innocence you lost while you were busy protecting the very people who were supposed to be protecting you. But here's the thing, that grief isn't a sign of weakness. It's proof that you're finally healing. It means the parts of you that were frozen for years are finally starting to thaw out. Now, let's talk about how these old survival habits show up in your adult life today, in ways that are subtle, tragic, and often completely invisible. You might end up being the therapist for all your friends, but never actually let anyone see the real you. People might praise you for being so independent, but deep down, you're just terrified of being a burden to anyone. You might find yourself in relationships where you're doing all the work, constantly fixing, managing, and over-explaining everything, while wondering why you feel so drained and resentful. You might struggle to say no because to you, a boundary still feels like a betrayal. But here is the good news. These aren't just who you are. They are habits you learn to survive. And because you learn them, you can unlearn them too. However, that only happens when you stop worshiping your strength and start honoring your wounds. One of the most powerful things you can do right now is ask that inner child, what did I need back then that I never got? You might hear heartbreaking answers like, I needed someone to tell me it wasn't my fault. Or, I just needed someone to ask how I was doing. You might hear, I just wanted to play and laugh without being afraid. Slowly, very slowly, you can start giving those things to yourself. You aren't doing this to change the past, but to stop reliving it every single day. This is how you finally stop looking for a parent in your partners and start standing on your own 2 feet. This is how you stop confusing your anxiety with your gut feeling. This is how you finally stop running away from the child you once were and the person you're meant to be. The famous psychologist Carl Jung once said that you can't truly wake up and understand yourself without going through some pain. He noticed that people will do anything, no matter how crazy, just to avoid looking deep into their own souls. But shadow work demands that we stop running and face it, every single part of it. You have to face it all, the parts of you that feel neglected, ashamed, scared, and angry. Healing isn't about transforming into a brand new person. It's about remembering who you were before the world forced you to change. If you're someone who grew up too fast, I want you to know this. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was that you never had a choice. But now, you do. You can choose to be soft. You can choose to finally rest. You can choose to stop managing everyone else's feelings and start honoring your own. This won't happen overnight. There will be days where you feel just like a kid again, vulnerable and small. And honestly, that's good. That is the whole point. Let that child finally come home. Let them cry. Let them play. For every year they had to be an adult. Give them a moment where they don't have to be anything at all. Let them finally be seen, not for what they can do or who they can fix, but for exactly who they are. Because you need to hear this. You are not broken. You are a mosaic of survival pieces, finally becoming whole. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in your life, you're finally growing up the right way. Not because a parent's instability forced you to, and not because fear demanded it. You are growing through the power of your own truth. You never had a childhood. That is a grief you will carry. But you still have a future. And this time, the pen isn't in their hands. It's in yours. Write a story where you are allowed to breathe.